But we start with an interesting lack of reaction, I think, from Myles Garrett's Browns teammates after the trade. Do we know definitively, Mike, that Alex Wright is the only one that's
I asked Zach before the show. I am unaware. I mean, Carson Schlesinger was asked about it at the golf tournament, and his answer was, I just don't want to slice my shots later in the round.
Yeah.
That was his answer.
Which is an avoidance.
I don't know.
If you missed the guy, I think you would have said, oh, my God, wow, what a loss. What are we going to do without him?
Yeah.
We didn't get that.
Well, Jay, that's why since January, really, but especially in late March when this contract modification was made, it was like, imagine hiring this new head coach and then saying, oh, by the way, we've traded Myles Garrett. However, I immediately corrected and started to kind of talk myself into, this is the best thing for this head coach. Because he's taking over what's probably going to be the youngest team in the league. He's trying to create his own culture. And this really has nothing to do with May and June OTAs, although Todd Monken made it clear he would have liked Myles Garrett to be here. But this is about these 21 and 22-year-olds who worship Myles Garrett because they've grown up watching him. They know he's the very best at what he does. And if he has his own set of rules, that's not how you build a culture, right? So, did they know him? Did they love him? What really went on? I don't know. But Myles Garrett is his own galaxy because of his talents, right? And the way that the Browns had disciplined or connected to Myles Garrett for years was just pay him more money and make more highlight videos of him when the team stunk.
Yeah.
You know? So now I'm fully for it. We can argue, and we will for months, in probably years, about the comeback of the trade, about why they arrived at even having these discussions. But you get a chance to let Todd Monken and these young guys move out. And for months, they've already started saying subtly, look at our social media, look at our plans. Carson Schlesinger is our guy on defense.
Yeah.
This is our poster child, our poster boy, who will eventually become a poster man.
And by the way, I don't want to insinuate that Myles was a bad teammate.
That's right.
But there's things that you can read between lines. But Schlesinger's a great teammate. Yes. And these guys like him, and he's young, and he's talented, and he's the future.
And these guys are the core going forward.
Yeah.
And Myles Garrett is now out of the building.
But their jobs all got a lot harder without Myles Garrett.
No doubt.
Did it buy Monken a little bit longer honeymoon? I think it did. You know, he's a first-time coach with an organization that was going to lose anyhow.
The Browns' win total in Vegas changed off a defensive player being traded. That never happens.
Rarely.
You only usually change based on quarterback.
Your ceiling was lowered, no doubt.
Yeah.
And you never know in an NFL season the way the ball bounces and who stays healthy and which players emerge.
Sure.
But you know that this guy was going to have 20-ish sacks and was going to change games for you, and he's not there. So can they still be a good defense? Yes, they absolutely can. I think they will be a good defense. But I don't think they'll be a defense that goes out and wins 5-6 games on its own.
Yeah, I don't think the fact that guys apparently didn't tweet about this is as big a thing as maybe Mike is making it. I don't.
I asked, is it a thing? I'm not making
No, he just asked the question.
It's a fair question.
It's a very fair question.
No, it's a fair question. I just don't think it's that big a deal. I don't think his teammates hated him. We would have heard that.
I don't think they hated him. I don't think that was the insinuation.
But he had his own set of rules, and that's probably not good for the team.
And to Zach's point about culture.
Yeah.
And look, you turn the program around with talent, but you also can't do it without culture.
That's right.
The culture has to change. And I have been on record every July, every May, every year when we've talked about this, I've said the same thing about Myles Garrett. I don't love it that he's not here. I don't love it. And, there's a lot of guys that were just saying, hey, he's Myles Garrett, wind him up, put him out there, he's going to get 20 sacks. I get all that. That's not what this was ever about. Myles Garrett isn't likely going to improve by showing up for OTAs. Right. He's likely not going to improve by showing up to minicamp. He's not. He is what he is. He's a freak. He's one of one. He's going to be great no matter what. But Myles, it's not about you. These are team-building exercises. You're showing your teammates that the best player needs to work just as hard as the 53rd man on the roster. And he never demonstrated that. And I thought it was laughable that this guy was in town and couldn't swing by to meet his new head coach.
Because he never intended to play for the
He
Cleveland
never
Browns.
was going to be a Brown this year,
That's right.
and he knew that. So I just think this is let's go. It's over. He's gone. Let's not talk about him. However, I don't know that I'm completely on the side of this means that his players, I think this is what it means. His teammates, I don't think they're glad he's gone, but I think I think they know what time it is. They know that he wasn't a leader. He was never going to be a leader. He wasn't going to lead by example or by voice. He just was there on Sunday for 3 hours and balled out like no one ever has.
He led by example on the field, not
on the
off
field.
the field.
He did.
Yes,
but
yes.
You know as well as anyone, you're a coach.
Yeah.
You build your tent poles for success in the off season. How do you work? How do you think? How do you train? How do you come together? Are you galvanized? And when there's a guy that might be sleeping in meetings or not there when he could be, but he's showing up for basketball games and he hasn't met the head coach, like, you know, you've been a part of an organization that had a player like that, and most of the teammates are like, yeah, he's a great guy. He's a great player, but he doesn't.
It was time.
It was time. I think a great player like that should add to the room with the example and the culture that he sets. And I don't think Myles Garrett ever did that.
Yeah, that was the only negative about Myles Garrett is he was not a culture setter and he was not a leader.
And I think that's why the guys aren't running to social media to say, oh my God, I can't believe he's gone.
Maybe, but they all owe a debt of gratitude to him.
Sure.
Because they all had more success because of him.
Okay, that's great, but they still won 5 games.
It will be. It will be.
He set a record, and they won 5 games. It's kind of like, when the home run record was broken, because that was the holy grail of home run of records. When Roger Maris finally broke it, I think a lot of people looked at that number and thought that greatness was going to come with it, and it does. The team is great when you have a guy that hits 61 home runs. But in football, at the defensive end position,
I don't know, Jay. If he resets the record this year, that probably means the Rams went 15-2.
No, listen, because he's got so much talent around him.
Yeah.
Oh, I fully expect him to have a great year. I think he might have the best year of his career. Why? Because in week 9, everything he does matters for the team. He motivated himself with individual achievements when he realized his owners were letting him down year after year after year. You're Joe Thomasing me. You're Nick Chubbing me.
That's right.
You're wasting my years. He'll be in a gold jacket one day, and he's got nothing in Cleveland to show for it. And I don't blame him for getting frustrated about that. I don't. And now he's going to be, every single time he steps on the field, he's got a very good chance to win. They're probably going to be favored in 14 games this year. I don't know. I have him picked to win the Super Bowl, and they probably will, and he'll probably be one of the main reasons that they win the Super Bowl. But he couldn't have made that big a difference here, and I just felt that all the non-tangibles that you want your best player to bring, here's why it's so jarring to me. I compare him to Jose Ramirez. Jose Ramirez is the best player on the Cleveland Indians/Guardians since his career. He's been here, 12 years? Every single year, he's been the following: the best player, the hardest working player, the smartest player. We couldn't say that about Myles Garrett. He wasn't the hardest working player. He didn't show up when he didn't have to. He only showed up when he had to. And there's a difference. And that's why if Jose Ramirez was to get traded tomorrow, you want to see a franchise in meltdown mode, they wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah. For many reasons, the Cleveland Browns and Myles Garrett were involved in this awkward stare down that nobody was going to win. And they eventually came to the conclusion that nobody was going to win it. What I would say is when the Browns get to the point where they have the quarterback that everybody follows, then when you have a season which every team has, a 3-win team, a 10-win team, a guy goes down to injury, a guy overperforms, a guy underperforms, you lose some games in crazy fashion. They rally around the quarterback. They don't rally around the defensive end.
No.
That's where this organization
it's happened
time and time again.
Now,
and undoubtedly, the Deshaun
the Ravens
Watson
rallied
miss,
around Ray Lewis.
Yes.
And he played defense.
Yes. But the Deshaun Watson miss is why you get to that stare down.
100%.
With Myles Garrett. And there was nobody winning it. And credit to the Browns and to Myles' side for saying, we're not winning this anymore. Paying us more money, dragging this out in public, did not do it. It's time to move on.
But now Andrew Berry has made the worst trade in NFL history, and he's traded one of the best players in NFL history.
Yeah.
That's right.
He better make good use of the picks he got for him.
It better work. Yeah, it better work.
Question for you. Is Myles Garrett right now the best player that was ever traded? Like playing at the peak of his level?
In any sport?
Any sport, yeah. Like who'd be better than Myles when they got traded?
Oh. Well.
You see what I'm saying? Like at the time of the actual
That's true.
deal.
I'm trying to think of the best baseball players. Most of the best players at that level. Ohtani wasn't traded.
It'll be Mike Trout to the Guardians here.
If Mike Trout gets traded,
Cleveland's always involved.
But you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, you know what? I said no, but I'm trying to think. Is there
like Luka Doncic in basketball is the one that came to mind.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett is a better football player than Luka Doncic is a basketball player.
Yeah, but Luka wasn't he a 2-time MVP before?
But Luka has the ball in
Luka's
his hand
never won
all
an
the time.
MVP.
He hasn't won an MVP.
No, not won an MVP. He's been
But
multiple.
I'm saying when we look back at the
thought he won an
all-time
MVP,
greats,
Mike.
I'm gonna have Myles Garrett higher on the football list than I'm gonna have Luka on the basketball list. For me.
Probably.
I mean, to me, you got who was the best quarterback that's ever been traded in his prime?
Jay Cutler.
Come on now.
No, that's
I'm just thinking out loud.
Well, wait, it doesn't happen. It doesn't.
No,
Yeah.
it never happens.
Right.
When you trade away a great quarterback, in all likelihood, you're trading away your
Stafford.
opportunity to win. Like, who's coming?
Stafford in 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve
Stafford
Young,
is
but
the
that was
answer.
before Steve Young.
Stafford
Steve
was
Young.
big too because for the player that was
Yeah.
involved in
Stafford
the
had
trade on the
already
other
played
side.
12 or 13 years
Yeah,
before he was
right.
traded.
Stafford is a good one, but
Yeah.
still, Myles Garrett's a better football player than Matthew Stafford. He's not more impactful on winning because quarterback matters more. But
Yeah.
Myles Garrett is higher up the all-time pass rusher list than Matthew Stafford is on the all-time quarterback list.
it's a great
I don't
comparison,
know.
even though there
Stafford's
isn't one.
Played for so many years.
But why did that trade happen? Because Matthew Stafford was stuck on this awful team.
Yes.
Yeah.
They couldn't get over
And
the
it
hump.
was
Myles
the
Garrett
perfect
is
trade
one of the
because
greatest players
Yes.
ever to be
The
traded.
Rams
And the trade
were a
worked for
player
both
away,
sides.
And
The-
Stafford
Yes.
was not
Oh.
going to do anything with what he had in Detroit at the time.
trade
I got
worked for
one.
both sides.
Babe Ruth.
Yeah, Babe Ruth is probably the answer.
No, the answer is definitely Wayne Gretzky. Steve Becker texted us.
Oh,
Gretzky-
yes.
Why
that's
is
right.
Wayne
Wayne
Gretzky
was
necessarily ahead of Babe Ruth? I mean, that's a
yeah, I
wash.
don't know that it's necessarily better because Wayne Gretzky was the Babe Ruth of the NHL.
Yeah.
But I think because of baseball's status in society, particularly in the United States of America, that it would be Babe Ruth.
Now, you could argue that Babe Ruth was traded before his prime because he had, you know.
Oh, he definitely was traded before his
Yeah,
prime.
Then Babe Ruth's off the table. I'm saying at the time of the trade, not just the best
But
player
Babe
to be
Ruth
traded.
remember, Babe Ruth was Ohtani. You know, he was a great pitcher and a great hitter
But if it was before his prime, then
with the Red Sox, but he didn't pitch
He didn't pitch with the Yankees.
with the
I mean,
Yankees.
barely
He just
did.
hit.
Barely
Just
did.
very little bit, but
Yeah.
with the Red Sox, he was Ohtani. He was
For-
the best
for 2
pitcher
years
and
he
the best
was,
hitter.
Yeah.
I would go with Babe Ruth.
I mean,
Wilt Chamberlain.
technically, the Cavs traded LeBron to the Heat.
Yeah, technically they did. Yes.
You're not wrong.
Yes, they did.
So that would be technically LeBron's the answer, Mike.
It's a sign and trade. I don't know if that's.
It's a trade. You said ever been traded. He was traded.
Look, here on this Monday, almost
Yeah.
exactly 1 week to the time that the trade was finalized and announced, right? The magnitude of this trade is huge, and it's going to follow this discussion for years and years.
Yeah.
But really, it's about the Browns finding a quarterback. And,
Yeah.
and that's in a vacuum, that's
Yeah.
right now.
And I
That's the
do
next 3
believe
days at
that
minicamp.
they're way better positioned to do that today
Correct.
than they were 1 week ago right now.
Correct. Like when these games start on August 30th, Andrew Berry's going to be on the road, right?
Yes,
His
he
staff
is.
is going to be
Yeah.
on the road. And then regardless of how many they win this year, every quarterback, free agent, trade, draft, is going to be linked to the Browns. And it's going to be about taking these resources and maximizing them.
into
They're
a-
not just necessarily what they are right now on paper, right, on your
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah.
Turning them into getting that guy who then becomes that leader.
You
who
know,
then-
might be a free agent at the end of next year.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield's never going to play for the Cleveland.
Not this team.
The next time Baker's in the building is when Baker's a very successful TV broadcaster. 'Cause
There you go.
He will be there.
And he will
wants to.
definitely be
good
there.
at it. He will be good at
That'll be interesting
He
too.
will be
by the way,
scared
when he
of
walks
nothing.
back in there.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, he'll walk in and say, "Bring it."
So look, when the Browns get around to inducting Myles and their legends and building the statue outside the stadium, Myles will be there for that. Will
Yeah.
Baker come back if he goes in the Legends Club?
They won't put him in the legend.
won't
He
put
didn't
him
do
in
enough while he was
Oh, Jay, he did. DeQuell Jackson's in the Legends Club.
Don't you dare
Well,
besmirch
DeQuell
DQ's
Jackson
name.
Well, has
is
more good
different.
years
Don't
with
you
the Browns.
dare,
Jackson was
Zach,
the
I will
best player
fire you
on
so
the team
fast.
for a decade.
DeQuell Jackson was never the best player on the Browns.
Well,
team.
the
Will
Browns
Jackson
got
is the
awful.
best
Look at the
linebacker this
talent.
team's seen in
Like,
forever.
He was it.
Well, they had Joe Thomas during a lot.
Not on defense, they didn't.
Oh, on defense, they had Joe Hayden.
They did. Yeah.
Go ahead,
I don't
Mike.
see. I don't think Baker did enough while he was here because for every good season he had a bad season.
He did. But
Wilt
And you're
Chamberlain,
talking to
Steve Points
you're
out
talking
Wilt
to the
Chamberlain.
banner carrying member of the Baker Mayfield fan club here in Cleveland. All right.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was traded, wasn't he?
this hasn't been talked about the whole offseason.
Yeah.
We're looking at maybe Baker versus Watson in week 2.
Could you imagine?
I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
That
It
should
just
be
got kind of
hysterical.
pushed under the rug.
Yeah, you're
We
right.
don't
You're
know.
right. You're right.
Yeah.
If it's Baker versus Shador, it's
Who you take? Who you got?
Baker is great in September. He's always great in September.
Yeah, give me Baker in that
That's his
matchup.
best month.
100 times out of 100.